Today we're moving from the gender chapter. We're going to keep our discussion of gender, but we're also going to move to the relationship chapter and ways that culture set up relationships. So I want to start today with some observations. One of the ways that which societies try to define male-female relations is by marriage. This is an old way to do this, and this is not part of the current debate about whether or not homosexuals should be allowed to marry. It is certainly just an observation that many cultures expect males and females to at least somehow end up with one and or more of the other gender. That is a way in which cultures try and organize male-female behavior. And what we're going to see is that marriage has had many definitions. When people speak about old-time marriage, I don't know what they're talking about. I mean that seriously. They're like, I don't want the old-time marriage. I don't like the old time from...
Like where there's no divorce?
Yeah, when did that time exist?
Long time back.
Yeah, but I mean like, as far back in many cultural traditions, they already have divorce. I'm trying to think if there's an Indo-European... I have to look up if there's an Indo-European word for divorce. Because they actually may even have one. The earliest traditions certainly had divorce in them. So, but you're right, it's sort of like, people have went, okay, y'all thought it was going to work out. We need a mechanism for y'all to dissolve this. So it's really sort of weird. It's been one thing we're going to see. Cultures tend to try to capitalize on naturally occurring sex differences. But what they really do, and this is going to be one of the sort of peculiarities, cultures are going to exaggerate and in some cases invent differences between the sexes. So one of the things that's going to happen is that cultures are going to do the following. This is going to be somewhat tough to do because we are in one of the cultures that does it. But cultures are going to take naturally occurring sex differences. And one of the most major naturally occurring sex differences is one gender gives birth to children and the other does not. And cultures are going to take that distinction and draw what they believe to be truths from it. So, for example, many cultures, our own included, looks at the fact that females give birth to children, that females can nurture children, and draws the conclusion that they should be nurturing. So, our culture thinks that females are naturally more nurturing than males. Does that argument seem particularly solid? No. Yeah, it's very tangential. It's like, well, women can nurture, therefore they're more nurturing. What?
That makes sense.
That line of reasoning is used in many cultures. And if you think about it, we encourage that line of reasoning. There is a problem with my little child. I could take care of it, but people often say children need their mothers, right? It's like I can't comfort. So we're going to see that line of reasoning. And one way to think of this, if you think of it this way, you're going to have like a little baby girl or a little baby boy that's going to be born, and culture likes to think they're going to end up, and many people do, and there's nothing wrong with this, many people end up in some form of marriage. But here's what culture seems to do. And we're going to look across many cultures, and cultures seem to have this idea of, okay, marriage requires certain things. Duties, obligations, whatever. Cultures are going to train one half of the species to fulfill one set of those roles and train the other half of the species to fulfill the other half of those. So we train one half of the species to say, well, somebody's got to take care of the kids. Well, it could be this guy, could be an uncle, could be communal. What do many cultures assume is natural? Who is going to stay and take care of the youngins? The women. So we go, okay, that's sort of peculiar because this one could do it. We also, many cultures say, well, this is going to be the family unit. The mother of the child and the putative father of the child. This is not universal. This is not every culture does this. In fact, there are many reasons why this doesn't make a lot of sense. To give you one of those, do the sexes have an equal knowledge of the parents of the child? Are the parents, when the child is being born, equally knowledgeable about who the parents are? No. Why not?
She could baby papa's maybe.
What?
Mama's baby, papa's maybe.
We have a nice English expression, mama's baby, papa's maybe. Okay. Does that play... Start thinking about this. Well, our culture defines the family as the mother and the putative father. Many cultures do this. We're not unusual, we're not weird in this respect. But, how do we trace our descent?
The father.
Well, we actually use both father and mother. We're sort of ambi, but we certainly take the last name of one, right? That's been our pattern. So, if these two get together and have a kid, these two get together and make a child. So these two get together and have a kid, we typically give it the patronymic, right? The father's last name. But we do trace descent through both people. We just give the father's last name. So theoretically, at some point, the mother's last name could get lost in all of the shuffle. So the father's going to give the last name to the child to believe that he believes is his. Wait a second. How might the father try and ensure that the child is his?
Paternity test?
No paternity test, buddy. This is pre-1950.
Oh, okay.
Just I marry her and putting her.
In the kitchen.
So if I marry her and I marry her and seclude her. I marry her and guard her. Across cultures, which gender do you think has been more guarded?
Females?
Yeah. That's peculiar. What are some other ways that I might try and raise the likelihood that this child is mine? I could do it by guarding you, but that is awfully inefficient. You are a wily, wily creature. Not just you, all of you. Males and females are wily. What about if I persuaded you that it was not in your interest to violate this? How might I persuade you that it's not in your interest to violate this agreement?
Religious beliefs?
Well, like religious, cultural expectations. One of the cultural things is religion. Religion is going to be under this. So I might try and inculcate religious beliefs that say, don't violate this, this agreement we've made. What else might I say?
You could provide for them and say, well, if you violate this, you don't have anyone to provide for you anymore.
Like, yeah, I'm going to provide, which is what our culture did for many years, right? We said, okay, we expect, or we had where white females didn't have to work, and that was our cultural ideal, and the idea was, this guy will provide for this one to make sure, we didn't say it that way, but this guy will provide for this female in order to raise the likelihood that she is going to have only his kids.
Was that official?
We didn't phrase it that way. It wasn't like, I will provide, but it was expected the male would be the provider and the female to be the homemaker. That's what we said.
No, but in order for it to be guarded.
No, there are many, many ways to guard. That's just one of the things. That's just one of the things that our culture did at one period of time. We do other things. So both males and females may have a sex drive. Do we encourage one gender to not use it? Which gender might that be? And does it follow any principles that we've seen so far?
Yeah.
Right? Now think about it. This is what we tell you. This is what we tell women. This is not me. This is what our culture tells women. You have a sex drive, but if you use it, you're horrible. Let's just say you're horrible in some way, right? So we're not going to use the more offensive terms, but we certainly say to you, oh, you have a sex drive, but do not use it. You have a sex drive. Oh, we expect you to use it. But when you start seeing that a lot of things start encroaching on the females, you start going, wait a second, someone got the short end of a stick somewhere. So I want to show you the short end of the stick. What? Russell, are you? I have to separate y'all? I assume whenever you come to class that there's been some sort of thing. All right. All right. So I'm going to look at marriage and child rearing, and I'm going to show you how many cultures, what they are doing. What many cultures are going to do is from day one try and set up half the species to be a good mother, half the species to be a good father, and this is a way to think about how we're raising people. We're like, well, we don't say it that way, but that's what we mean. All right. On top of all of this, we're going to have to see, and we're going to have to acknowledge at some point, that marriage doesn't have this universal meaning that we in our current political culture like to think it does. We like to say marriage means this, and I don't know who they're talking about. I'm like, that's what we think marriage means now, but other people have had different views. So let's see this in action. I love this set of lectures. All right. So I will tell you though, before we get into the nitty-gritty of many, many cultures, there's going to be a line of reasoning at the base of my argument. And it certainly differs from how most cultures approach this. I'm going to assume, per the scientific methodology, that there are no differences between the sexes unless I see otherwise. So this is what this means. If you tell me math ability, I'm going to assume that males and females are similar unless I'm shown otherwise. But I'm assuming no difference until you show me a difference. So empathy, no difference until I'm shown this. Sex drive, I'm assuming no difference until I see one. Verbal skills. Now, many cultures assume a difference and work from there. We're going to actually do it the other way. And then, once I discover a difference, if I discover a difference, I'm going to have to go, is this culture or is this nature? Right? So, if I find that Japanese women behave a certain way, I'm not going to go, that's what women are like. I'm first going to go, is there a difference? Is it due to nature or nurture? Are you with me? This is different from how we normally think of it. We normally think of the sexes as different, but let's prove they're the same. But that's actually not how we think about it. That's not how this field thinks about this issue. And this is going to be the order of our discovery. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to show you, there's variability all over the place. We need to get some order here. I thought I love this.
So you said the sexes are the same until
Well, no, think of it this way. So you're interested in social behavior, right? Because that's what this class is about. And we could either say that we could either assume that males and females are completely different on a trait, right? Our assumption could be the bell curves look like this. And then my argument with them would have to be, let's push them, well, maybe they actually overlap some like this. But that's the way our tests are set up is that males and females are the same, and our tests show difference. The way our tests are set up is, okay, I don't know if males and females differ in their math scores or not. I don't know anything. I'm going to assume they don't. So I now get some data and I find that the distributions look like this on whatever trait. So I find that in the American population, there's this set of distributions. What have I shown? Let's say this is English skills, or empathy, or it doesn't matter. What have I shown if I show a difference here? What are some possibilities? Let's vote. What have I shown if I show a difference there? Have I shown that males and females differ innately? Have I shown males and females differ in all cultures? Have I shown differ in one culture? I mean, what have I shown? This is C. Like what's my, if I find this is my empathy scores, right? And I find there's a sex difference, females higher than males. What have I shown? Have I shown that males and females differ innately in who's more empathetic? Have I shown that males and females differ in all cultures? Or have I shown one culture? What have I shown? 5, 4, 3, 2,